Good morning, a very warm welcome to everybody and today's session of Onepoint Oneness. For those of you who are new, my name is Matthew, and we've been running these sessions now for just over a year. And the thought came because many of us at Onepoint Consulting have a regular daily practice of meditation that we find extremely beneficial. And we thought it'd be really good if we could share some insights into meditation and positive thinking with a wider audience. And so Onepoint Oneness was born from this. And the idea is that we have a talk and a meditation, and we've been really blessed with some fantastic guest speakers over the last year, and today is no exception. I'm very pleased to welcome my good friend Tim Whiting, who's joining us all the way from Australia. Tim, a very warm welcome to you. Great to have you.
Thank you, Matthew. That's a very heartfelt welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Tim has been studying Raj Yoga meditation since 1999. And over that time, he's taken a particular interest in the topics of happiness, balance, and silence. He's run workshops and retreats under the title The Happiness Habit since 2009. He's worked in the disability sector since 2001 and currently resides in a Raj Yoga Meditation Centre for Spiritual Learning. It's a retreat centre in the Blue Mountains outside Sydney, Australia. And perhaps no surprise from the intro that today the topic is being happy and staying happy. Great title. So looking forward to it, and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks again, Matthew. Yeah, so a very good morning to everyone. And from this end, I can say a very good evening. I'm speaking to you from a retreat centre in the Blue Mountains just outside of Sydney. So it's an interesting thing to consider, the question of happiness in the times that we're living in. And I suppose the first thing I'd like to do is to invite you to consider what's your relationship with happiness. Perhaps you find that happiness is a bit of a unicorn. And what I mean by that is that, yes, it's a bit of a mythical creature. I'd really like to see it. It'd be wonderful if it existed, but perhaps it's not really for people who are grounded in the real world. You know, a life of happiness is perhaps, like that, like a unicorn. So someone chasing a life of happiness, people might think they're a bit off with the fairies. Or perhaps they're a bit cynical about happiness. There's a particular scene that comes to mind. There was a wonderful filmmaker and a theatrical producer called Peter Brooks, who did a wonderful screen rendition of the Indian scriptural story, the Mahabharata. There's one scene where this family, effectively it's a family feud, and the mother of one group of the family said, "Why can't you be happy?" And the response came, "I want to be discontented." And it's like that sometimes, that we're really, really angry at the world, and we'd rather concentrate on that. Or perhaps, rather than being cynical, perhaps we, as is the case sometimes, there's this very sort of romantic attachment to being miserable. And what I think most of all is just a long, particularly in the West and the Europe, this long literary tradition in the arts. And even if you go through your favorite song list, how many of them are actually about being happy? And it's interesting. There's probably a lot more songs about broken hearts. So my first question to you is, are we really interested enough? Are we really driven enough to be happy that we're prepared to set aside those negative feelings and those negative thoughts and and prepared to put some distance between so much of the, what's going on out there and so much of the conversations that can just fuel and negativity and take away from our happiness. And so to take some time aside and just to, I suppose, put ourselves under a magnifying glass and just sort of say, well, what's my commitment to being happy? Good if we can understand what we mean by happiness, because perhaps there's a lot of differing views out there. The way I describe happiness is that happiness is definitely a feeling. So not just an idea, not just a sensory experience, although, a block of chocolate's lovely, but it doesn't mean that 3 blocks of chocolate will make us more happier than 1. It might make us a bit squeamish if we keep going along that path. So happiness has a lot to do with the quality of my thinking. Perhaps if we take just a few minutes now, and as I suggested, we put ourselves on the magnifying glass and just reflect on what's happening internally. So I'll invite you to, just for the next few minutes, we'll have a little bit of a meditation. I'll invite you to sit back in your chosen seat or wherever you find yourself. And just to start, always first of all, just to bring our attention right back to the self. So just to start with a few deep breaths. And in doing so, breathing in, exhaling, and just becoming a little bit more present in the body, more present in the moment, free from what's waiting for us in the day ahead, and having set some distance from whatever has happened up until this moment. Being aware of my body, relaxing my limbs if there's any tightness or any tension. And just bringing my attention to an internal place, the focus of my mind. And the feelings I create will be according to the quality of the thoughts that I entertain. So stepping inside, let me consider what's my wish for happiness. If I consider all the people who I encounter on a daily basis, all the different people who come into my orbit, just to hold a very sincere wish that they have all the happiness that they seek. Just imagine looking into your day and some of the people you might meet. And just hold this thought. Whomever I encounter today, let me hold that intention that they have all the happiness that they wish for. If I repeat that slowly to myself, whomever I meet or whomever I encounter today, may they have all the happiness that they wish for. Okay. And in your own time, just coming back. So I suppose one aspect we could consider in terms of what it means to be happy. There's a few different ways I was thinking about this. Certainly, yeah, I'd agree. It's the feelings that we create, but it's also a state of being. So happiness, I think, is a bit like emotional fitness, you could say. So it's very easy to just let our emotions be determined by all the different events that go on around us. And I think for a great many people in the world, this is why they find themselves to be very distressed, is that the influences of the environment, the influence of their immediate relationships and everything that's going on around them, that's the basis of their feelings. But I think there's the wish for happiness, and there's a little bit of blind faith in that we kind of cross our fingers and just hope that, you know, life will be good. We know that that's not always going to be the case, that it's a wonderful and variety, you know, it's like a tapestry with all these different threads, and it's always going to bring up a whole variety of experiences, and not all of them would be the ones that we wish for. And so just leaving ourselves open to the influences of the environment around us, the atmosphere and all the feelings that come with that, yeah, we can leave ourselves being very prone. So not just having the wish of happiness, but I think the wisdom of happiness. And yeah, as I mentioned to begin with, that some people might have the attitude that those who are seeking a life of happiness, you know, may not be entirely grounded, or perhaps they haven't, you know, grasped the bigger picture and what's happening in the world around them. And I think, at least much earlier on in my life, that was very much the case, that I was quite cynical about the idea of being happy. And which is funny, because it was also something that really drove me in terms of this is a quality life, to be happy. And over the past couple of decades, I've encountered people who are very insightful, very tuned into what's happening in the world and very aware of the feelings of those around them. And it's like they've made a very determined choice, having considered the way that life travels and having considered all the things that will come our way. The choice that they've made is my response to the world around me, and the kind of dialogue I'm going to have internally is going to be about happiness. And one very practical experience, I think another aspect of happiness is it's always about making an addition. So whenever we're in a position that we can bring something, and there's always something we can bring in terms of our exchanges with others. It might be a little bit more patience. It might be a little bit more kindness, a little bit more interest. There's a whole variety of different things that we can bring in terms of our attitude. And it's a subtle thing, but I think it's quite palpable, quite distinct, that when you engage with people, and the feeling is that in their exchange with you, that there's been a kind of an addition, and they feel richer for having met you than not. Because certainly there's the experience of the opposite. When we go out into the world and there's promises of, coming away in a better state, but, we feel a sense of loss. So as well as making an addition, I think it's like we have an emotional currency. This is the nature of our give and take with others. And if we really pay the attention to make sure that happiness is right up there in terms of our give and take with others, it's part of our emotional currency. So that also has to do with when people offer us different things that may not be so positive, that we're discerning enough to cast those things aside and to be the one who makes the addition. So even when we come to sit to meditation, I think especially when we come to sit for meditation, we're demonstrating to ourselves, and also we're creating a pattern in how we exchange with others. And so it's a nice thing to sit in meditation and create that habit, create that pattern of that positivity, that that kind-heartedness, that energy that just that sparks people up. So there's a lot more that I could share on the aspect of happiness, but I think an experience is probably is as worthwhile as anything else. So once again, I'll invite you just to sit back, to find your comfortable space. And we're going to step into that realm of happiness. And if you can imagine that the human spirit, one of the capacities of us is that we receive and we transmit feelings and thoughts, and we're doing this all the time. Because in our practice of meditation, we're doing this with a much more focused and refined intention. Sitting comfortably, and unclench your jaw. Let your shoulders fall back. And just lean so you're on your sitting bones. Once again, bringing yourself back to the present moment. And think of yourself as the witness. Think of yourself as the observer who looks out into the world. And that wherever you cast your attention, you're creating a little more volume. You're making the scenes around and those around us, their thoughts, their actions, their words, through the attention that I pay. Giving those a little more volume. So let me exercise the choice of, when I meet and interact with people today, let me look to the purest, kindest, the most beautiful part of that soul. It's a silent practice. It's an invisible practice. But certainly we've all had the experience of feeling acknowledged, feeling recognized, and feeling valued. Just through the very quiet exchange of regard. And if at each step I bring lightness, bring some sweetness, I bring some virtue, I'll be making an addition. Creating a sense of contentment and satisfaction with making the most of each scene of the day. And my wish for you, may each and every one of you have all the happiness that you wish for. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.
Tim, thanks for a really lovely session on happiness, and for that, especially that lovely blessing at the end for everybody.
I just remember someone saying that to me, that it really doesn't cost me anything to hold that intention. I thought, yeah, and it feels lovely when you hold that intention. The feeling I have within myself is really, quite sweet when you hold that. So yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need more sweetness in the world. That's for sure. I noticed in your bio, and it was sort of striking me as you were speaking. It says you particularly interested in topics of happiness, balance, and silence. I think one thing I noticed about you is that you have a very calm energy, and we've got a couple of minutes, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on the link between, silence or peace or calmness and happiness. Is one a foundation for the others, or what's your thoughts on that? What's your experience?
I think certainly contentment is a foundation for happiness. And, that's not that. Yeah, I think it's got a lot to do with how we respond to what the world serves up. And even when there's a difficult situation, if we come away thinking, you know what, it's not something I'd volunteer for, but given how I responded to the situation, if it's a loss, if it's an illness, or, just something difficult or testing, even in a situation like that, I think we can come away and think, you know what, if that came around, I would respond in the same way. So in that way, I think a difficult situation doesn't necessarily mean that it cancels out an opportunity for happiness. Yeah, and I think balance is an interesting thing. It's being dynamic, because it's not about having a set formula that this will always be the way that we achieve happiness, but looking at the different situations and saying, okay, what's needed here? And, if you do anything physically that requires balance, riding a bicycle, or you always have to adjust at every moment, always adjusting. So, yeah, I think having that dynamic quality to respond to different situations. And we're demonstrating to ourselves, this is my capacity to look after my happiness and be responsible for my happiness. I think that's a big thing, that I need to be the one to say, yep, I'm going to be in charge of this. I'm not going to pin it on anyone else. And it's very empowering, and we feel a lot more in charge of ourselves and a lot less at the whim of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting insights. Thank you for that. So, half an hour goes very quickly, and
it does.
We've come to the end of today's session. So thank you very much, Tim, for joining us, giving us your time this evening where you are, as you say. And thanks to everybody out there who joined us for today's session. I'm sure you must have enjoyed that as much as I did. And next week we have a speaker, Chitra, who's joining us from Inner Space Meditation Centre in Manchester in the UK. And she's going to be talking on keeping your cool when emotions run hot. Another interesting topic. So in the meantime, you'll see in the YouTube chat, there is a link for feedback and also a link to the Oneness homepage, where you can watch previous sessions and find out about other upcoming sessions too. And also there's a huge library of the last 60 or so meditation sessions that are all available there on the YouTube channel. So do share this wonderful resource with your colleagues, friends and family. I think these days it's really vital that we have access to these insights and experiences around meditation, because the world is really calling out for it, and people really need this extra power from meditation to be able to, as Tim was saying, actually take responsibility for your own contentment, peace and happiness. So thanks again to Tim, thanks to everyone, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye for now.